Now recording, and everyone from the lobby has been admitted.
Thank you, Heidi. Welcome to the public meeting of Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel. My name is Annalise Tour and I'm the panel chair today. Other panel members today are Glenys James and Marcia Doheny as expert members, and the community representative is Andrew Doherty. Before we begin the meeting, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. The panel has adopted public meeting guidelines, which are published on Council's website. The panel has been briefed on each item by Council staff prior to the meeting and undertaken site inspections either independently or electronically. Today we have a number of people registered to address the panel at the public meeting.
No one says we've let people. Yep.
So I'll just ask everyone to mute. Thanks. So yeah, today we've got a number of people registered to address the panel at the public meeting. The order of speakers for each item will be firstly objectors, followed by those supporting the application, including the applicant or their representative. A registered speaker will have 3 minutes to speak, whereupon a bell will ring. Any extension may be granted at my discretion as chair. The panel has been provided with copies of all submissions received in response to the public exhibition of the application, and also forwarded a copy of all late correspondence. Therefore, there is no need for speakers to repeat points made in your written submissions or that have been raised by previous speakers. Speakers should use respectful language, and defamatory or rude language will not be tolerated. At the end of the oral submission, panel members may ask questions of speakers to clarify our understanding of what has been said. Public meetings are video recorded and audio recorded. The recordings will be published on Council's website after the meeting. Once all speakers in relation to all matters on the agenda have finished, I will close the public meeting and the panel will move into closed session to deliberate and determine all matters on the agenda. The panel's determination and reasons will be published on Council's website, normally within 2 working days. In relation to conflict of interest, prior to the meeting, each of the panel members have been asked to declare whether they have a conflict of interest, and I can confirm that no members have declared a conflict of interest in relation to any item on today's agenda, whether it be the public or the non-public agenda. In relation to item 2 on the agenda, there are no apologies, and the panel notes that the minutes of the Northern Beaches local panel meeting held on the 6th of September were adopted by the chairman and have been posted on Council website. In relation to item 3, no category 3 applications are on today's agenda. Item 4 is the public meeting items, and the first item is the DA for 45 Cabarita Road, Avalon Beach. And we have a number of speakers registered to speak. The first speaker is Mary Morrill, speaking on behalf of Trappers Way Road Fund Association, Inc. So Mary, if you're there.
I'm here.
Great, if you can, your time starts now.
Thank you very much. So the first thing is I would like to reiterate our invitation to come and have an on-site visit to Trappers Way to see how narrow the road is by 45 Cabarita Road and what a tight corner it is. It makes much more sense, in our opinion, for the build to be conducted from Cabarita Road, where a DA has been approved for a driveway in the past. We acknowledge it is steep, but the damage that's going to be caused to our road by building on Trappers Road is unacceptable. So our first point is the road. We are really concerned about the state of our road, which, as you know, is a private road, and we as an association have no power. We have been looking at patch repairs. The ones that we can afford are not going to last if we have heavy vehicles continuing to use the road. We cannot make people pay. For instance, the owners of 45 Carbarita Road do not pay their annual subscription. So to make people pay for repairs is difficult, if not impossible. So we do expect council to take heed of this and take more responsibility. So the current image we are looking at, and we are meeting with Phil Devon tomorrow to look at a quote that council has given us for $350,000 for just patch repairs for the main run. So you can see we are extremely concerned about the state of our road, and do expect council to take some responsibility for it. So looking then at the road by the proposed build, there are safety issues because it's such a tight corner. We are very concerned about our liability and the safety of people using the road. Recently, we have had a number of concrete trucks, I think over 80 going to one build. These concrete trucks, they back up. There is no concern for pedestrians using this road. It is a real safety concern. And the visibility at this particular corner is poor. There's also the inconvenience. We note that you could allow construction vehicles to park. There is no room for parking. Parking would obstruct our right of carriageway. This is unacceptable, and the road fund would not allow it. It is also very inconvenient when concrete trucks park blocking the carriageway, as has happened on a number of occasions. So we are very concerned about safety and inconvenience for owners and for visitors to the road. So the last point is we are going to be asking, and I will note it here, compensation from council from past and current and future damage. A private road with 52 houses really needs council assistance. It is untenable to allow more DAs that use and damage our road and create safety and liability issues for us.
Thank you very much, Mary. Any questions from panel members?
I actually do have one
Yes.
question, Mary. Can you just advise the panel how many other, well, firstly, how long you've lived in your current home?
Me, nearly 2 years.
2 years. Have there been other construction projects? So you've spoken about one construction project with the 80 concrete trucks. Have there been other construction projects that you're aware of from other owners?
Yes.
That have used Trappers Lane?
Yes. I think of Trappers Way rather than Riverview and Carbarita. So there have been builds at 46 and 48. There's currently a build occurring at number 2 Trappers Way. So yes, and there are likely to be more in the future because many of the houses on Trappers Way are small and old. It is only in recent times that big builds have started to occur. So the people who have lived here for a long time did not foresee this coming with these big builds that are happening now.
All right, thank you. I didn't have anything further. Thank you.
So how has it worked with the other constructions that have occurred? Were there dilapidation conditions put on with those ones? So in terms of any damage that's occurred during construction, there has been no remedy to get the Trappers Way repaired. Is that?
No. Builds have made small, in the scheme of things, contribution to the road fund. 3 people have, but they are minute in the scheme of things. Like 5,000, 2,500. They go nowhere to compensating for the damage caused.
So that's these constructions 46, 48, number 2 have contributed sort of in the.
No, number 2 hasn't contributed, but there's been a small build on the southern end, and I'm sorry I don't have the number. That's happening at the same time now. Sorry, I'll see if I can find it in the directory. But it's a smaller build, so it has not been so dramatic, and that's why she contributed 500. Sorry, I can't see it at a glance.
Have you had a chance to look at the conditions that are proposed, the construction management plan
Yes.
condition? Have you got any comments on
I have.
that and whether that will be of any assistance?
Minute. Yes, it is good that they now are in place and that the weights have been decreased, and we're very grateful to council giving a sign for the entrance that we have now put up, and we're going to put new signs inside, so we appreciate that, but no, there'll still be road damage.
And in terms
It's
of
inevitable.
the right of way, as I understand, it's an old right of way and there's not any conditions on it in relation to issues to do with such a construction or limitations.
That's right. We are seeking legal advice, so you'll be hearing more from us. We've reached that point where we know it's essential to have legal advice.
All right. Other questions? Anyone? Glenys or? Sorry, I can't
No.
hear you, Glenys.
No questions, Annalise,
Right,
sorry.
thank you. All right, thank you. The next speaker is Sarah Turnbull.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll just go back down. Yes, so my comments, I'm speaking as an owner of 31 Trappers Way, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Frederic Vanier. So we're the neighbouring property to the Reeds, number 45 Cabarita, and we're on the south side. And the comments I'm raising today concern privacy, basically what we feel is unreasonable impacts on our privacy. We're really, after careful consideration of the modified plans over the weekend, we feel they still pose significant impacts on our privacy. And by that, I mean, I'm not just... I really want to stress that we're not trying to be tricky or difficult. I'm not talking about privacy impacts just on our outdoor living area. I'm actually talking about impacts on virtually every room of our house. So our upstairs living area, our downstairs bedrooms, so the master bedroom, sorry, and my son's bedroom, and also my office. Both my husband and I work full-time from home, as well as the outdoor living area. So so there's significant impacts. And the two comments I've got refer to the upstairs windows on the south side, and of the build, which overlook us, and also the upstairs balcony. And with regards to the upstairs windows on the south side, we would love to see a minimum windowsill height of 1.65 metres to protect our privacy, in addition to some sort of privacy screening, whether it's smoked glass or privacy screens, so that we're not overlooked, and to give us more privacy. We feel this is reasonable because of the proximity of our houses and the position, their relative position on the blocks. So the Reeds home is so our houses are very close, and the neighbouring house that concerns the DA is positioned well forward of ours. So both the windows on the south side and the balcony pose issues. There's nothing we can plant on our side in terms of landscaping, given the height of that house, to protect us. So there were two mature palm trees that did offer us some screening from the existing house. They were cut down by the Reeds, so we're now very, very exposed. So yeah, that concerns our request for the windows. In terms of the upstairs balcony, we're asking that be deleted from the design, from the plan. And the reason for that is it exceeds the height of building allowance under the LEP. And we believe that because of the proximity of our homes and because of the position of that balcony situated forward, that it does pose unreasonable privacy issues. For example, where I'm sitting now would be exposed. I'm in the living room of our home, and that would be exposed to the balcony. There was a full-length privacy screen included in the original design, but that poses solar loss issues for us. So we're asking that be deleted from the design. It does include substantial deck areas already, and so that is our request. And thank you very much for considering these points.
All right, so just to clarify, the windows on the south side, you're saying they're the windows on the plans, the ground floor plan? Is that the one that you're saying that you want screened?
The upstairs windows, the upper
Yeah, the plans actually have lower ground and ground floor, so presumably the ground floor is the upper floor, but that's what they've got on the title.
Yeah.
So it would be, you're saying bedroom 2, existing bathroom, existing landing, new ensuite and existing bedroom, and the balcony that's off the existing bedroom. Are they the areas that you've got concern?
That's right.
And so when you're talking about the upstairs terrace as well, it's the balcony off existing bedroom 3 that you've got concerns?
That's right. Yeah.
And I think, and that just has a, at the moment, a balustrade facing you, a solid balustrade.
It does. And the original plans did include a full privacy screen, but that was after we got some studies done. Our original submission was done by Bill Tulloch, and there was some shadowing studies and solar studies, and that was considered to have unreasonable solar impacts. So again, there's nothing we can do in terms of screening because of the height, there's nothing we can do our side to alleviate that.
And your concern principally from that balcony is that potential overlooking of your timber deck and garden. Is that the concern?
Yeah, also inside you can look. So you know, where I'm sitting now, I would see the balcony and they could see me. You know, I'm inside in the in our living room. So the house is situated well forward from ours, and by about 10 metres or something. And so the position of the houses plus their proximity raises the issues.
All right, thank you. Any questions from panel members?
No, thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of the applicant, we have 3 speakers, Greg Boston, Mark Corgle and Peter James. So Greg, presumably you're taking the running?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. Look, we've reviewed the report. We believe it comprehensively deals with the carriage of the application, including a number of amendments which have been made through the process. It deals with the resident issues and contains a number of conditions which we don't raise any fundamental concerns with. In relation to condition 11, which goes towards the construction traffic management plan, it's quite a detailed condition. We note that the supplementary memo which has been provided to the panel members incorporates a number of changes which the memo would seem to suggest are indicated in red in the memo. I just don't have, and I'm not sure whether you've got the memo in front of you, but there doesn't seem to be any text in red, but reading through it, it would appear that the requirements have been re-lettered, and requirement F and then subclause C has been added, which is just a general assessment as to the physical constraints of the right-of-way and the maximum size of vehicles. I think G, so F subclause G has been added, which just talks about tree protection measures for trees located within the right-of-way. That seems to be it. So there's just been some tweaks in terms of tree protection, is my understanding. In relation to the balance of that condition as drafted, we do have just two minor amendments that we would ask the panel to put their mind to. Is it easier for me to refer to the agenda, the condition in the agenda, or the condition in the supplementary memo?
The conditions that you're seeking changes to are existing wording, not new wording, is that, or it's?
Yeah, look, it's the same. It's existing wording which has been carried over, but renumbered in the supplementary memo. So,
look, do you want to share your screen and maybe put the supplementary memo up? That's probably the easiest thing.
Yeah, sure. If I can just have access for sharing.
Well, maybe Heidi, could you put the supplementary memo up, because maybe it'll
Yep.
come up in red with the
I'll get that now, one
between the
moment.
black and the red. That would be good.
Just share my screen now.
Thank you. Just the second to last page in that memo, please. Just down the bottom of that page.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just the fourth bullet point from the bottom of that page, it just says make provision for parking on site. And then the second sentence is all staff and contractors are to use the basement parking once available. I think that's just a carryover from the standardised condition. There is no basement in this development, so we just ask for that particular sentence to be struck. And then if you can just go to the last page. Yeah, thank you. And just again, the fourth bullet point from the bottom, there's a whole lot of conditions, including dilapidation reporting specifically for the private right of carriageway. That fourth bullet point from the bottom appears to relate to council's public roadway adjacent to the property, and we just ask that the word public be inserted after specify that the public road, including footpath, must be kept in a serviceable condition, because the second sentence relates to council being able to require patching at no cost to council. We just want to make it clear that that particular provision relates to the public road, not the right of carriageway. Apart from that, we don't raise any objection to the conditions. In relation to the concern raised regarding privacy, we note that those south-facing windows associated with the bathroom and the stair landing are already nominated as highlight windows. I'd defer to Mark Corgle, the architect, who's also here, just in relation to what sill height would be appropriate. And there's also 2 bedroom windows, which are secondary light sources, just whether if the panel wanted something particularly done with those secondary windows. And again, I'd get Mark just to speak to that. We originally did propose a privacy screen off that small balcony access from the bedroom. At the request of council to just reduce the visual bulk of that facade, the screen was removed, but no objection would be raised to a condition requiring a partial height screen to say 1.6 metres in height, just to be provided to that southern edge, rather than a full height screen, just to ensure that there's that sort of balance between reducing building bulk and also allowing some solar access through there. So, but if the panel's got any other questions in relation to privacy, Mark Corgle is here to answer them. Thank you.
All right. So in terms of questions, whether it's for you or for the architect, but what's the construction proposed for this development? As I understand, there will be concrete trucks arriving, given that the construction traffic management plan pretty much precludes concrete trucks. So how are you going to build it if you've got concrete?
Mark, I'll defer to you.
Well, I mean, we have, I guess what I'd say first, we don't actually have a builder on board yet. I didn't appreciate that there was no access for any concrete truck, which seems...
Well, I'm not an expert on concrete trucks, but I presume the weight limit for a concrete truck is going to be over the weight limit.
Yeah, so there's a condition that vehicles are not to exceed 24 tonnes or 7.5 metres, and that wouldn't preclude, some of the smaller. Yeah,
no, that's correct. But there's different size concrete trucks, to answer your question. There's not a substantial amount of concrete proposed. There is some concrete, definitely, because we're doing a roof garden and a ground floor slab, and a swimming pool. They all use concrete, but the walls, the roof, and the cladding, that's all lightweight timber construction. We've put together with council advice, a traffic and construction zone management plan. It's the last drawing. It was a supplementary drawing, DA26, where we've created a space which is 5.4 metres wide by 12 metres deep. That would be more than adequate to take a concrete truck off the driveway, off Trappers Way. But this is something which we think would be developed with the builder and with the council as part of preparing that report to address the construction. But there's certainly different scales of concrete trucks available.
And when you were doing the design, what sort of investigation did you do about getting access off Cabarita Road?
Look, we had a builder come through to put the estimate together for the job, and he just said it would be virtually impossible to do it from Cabarita Road, given the pitch of the land and the distance, and would add a significant amount to the cost of construction. I just note that at the same time we were doing this investigation, was a property for construction was being built on the other side of the road, approximately 2 houses further to the south. And they were certainly managing that process from what I could see with concrete. It's a larger construction than us. This is an alterations and additions. But the distance and the height from Cabarita Road to build this property would make it cost prohibitive, I would have thought. And that's been proven in our investigation with builders.
Do you have a feel for the volume of bulk earthworks and cut and fill that you're having to remove from site?
Oh, look, the aim is to minimise the cut and fill. So if you look at the drawings, we've tried to step the new work down so that we can keep the material on site, essentially. It'll go underneath, undercross and under pool areas. But effectively, we're stepping it to follow the fall of the land as efficiently as we can. Yeah, we appreciate there's not going to be massive machinery in there. That whole design's predicated on that principle that we're trying to do the minimum cut fill to create a flat bench.
All right, other questions from panel members?
Thanks, Chair. I just have a question about the upstairs balcony off the main bedroom. What would be the impacts for that to be? What's that actually looking at?
It's probably the most significant view to the east. We wanted to put full height sliding doors there. The balcony is there primarily it's off a bedroom. It's not a balcony, an entertaining balcony. It's quite a small balcony, but it does enable us to put full height sliding glass doors. I note that the existing house is forward of the house to the south, and that's the natural run of the street and the subdivision. But But yeah, the real intent is that that balcony gives an opportunity without making the building bigger, because we don't want the bedroom itself doesn't have to be bigger, and the opportunity to have a full height set of sliding doors to get those northeast breezes through and to make the most of the view, which is directly east. It's not south or anywhere near that. And I think that the in regard to the privacy issues, there's 5 windows in total on the ground floor. 2 of them are well above 1.6 metres, so they would offer no issues in terms of privacy. There's a window to an ensuite 2. It has opaque glazing, so that again would, and I think from the perspective of the secondary window to bed 3, that also could be opaque glazing. That's there primarily for cross ventilation, so it's not for a view. That's why it's a narrow vertical window, and that could also it would have a restrictor on it, restricting the degree to which you could open it, because it's potential of fall hazard. So that wouldn't open any larger than 100 millimetres. So the one, to bedroom 2, I don't believe that's an issue in terms of privacy, because it's where it's located and what it's opposite. It's further back, and it's not really looking into the adjoining properties' windows or their living areas. But I'll be guided by the panel and Madam Chair, if they think it's an issue, that also could be made to be opaque glass, because it's for cross ventilation as well.
Can you I've just got a bit lost there. So the two that in your view could be opaque. Can you just describe them again, please?
Sure. So if we could share our screen, is that possible?
Yes, or Heidi, if you could share it.
Let me just update the settings. One moment.
Yeah, do that, Pete. Yeah, it's not highlighted at the moment on our end, the share control.
But you just explained them before. I think that's probably okay, but I just didn't make a note.
Yeah, so on the ground floor along the southern elevation, there's 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a stair landing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sharing, Mark, just guide me through.
Yep.
All right. So if we start on that western side, bedroom 2, which Greg was, there's a window 2.07. That's the window. It's not opposite any windows on the adjoining property, but that there is not the outlook from this room. It's for, an additional source of ventilation, so that we've got the sliding door directly to the west, and then we've got a narrow window. And we try and do that on pretty much all our projects to facilitate that cross ventilation. The next window, the existing bath and existing landing, that's a strip highlight window, which is greater than 1.6 metres above the floor level. That is clear, but it wouldn't pose any loss of privacy, because you can't physically see, you can't look at the property to the south from those windows. The next window to ensuite 2, W2.1, that's called up to be an opaque glass window, louver window with a limited opening to 100 millimetres. And I was going to suggest that would be a reasonable outcome for window 2.11. If we can keep the window but address any privacy issue, and it works both ways. They don't want to look at each other, I'm sure, so that could be changed to opaque glass. In regard to the balcony, we could put a louver screen onto that balcony, which is directed 45 degrees, and that would provide the privacy but also let light through. And I think it's a balcony. You'd physically look at the neighbour, you'd have to lean out over the balcony and look back around. It's just not something in the natural course of events of using that space you'd do.
Thank you. And can you go back to window 2.11 again? And you said that could be opaque.
Yes.
Could that also be limited opening?
Yes.
And what about the landing? What windows on the landing? Sorry.
It's a high level window. So that, if Greg, can you share a drawing DA15? So there, yeah, that's the high level windows. So floor level is 1.6 metres below that. The bottom of that window, so the sill. And the other two windows that we were just talking about, window 1 to bedroom 2 is here, put the cursor on. And then the one with GO to ensuite 2, GO stands for glazing, opaque. And the next one across is the 1 to bedroom 3. And I'd suggest that could be changed to opaque glass to address any concerns the neighbour has with it, overlooking.
Opaque and limited opening? No, just.
Yeah, limited opening as well.
Yeah. So that one could be opaque and limited opening, and then the one in the ensuite, just point to that one.
Already is called up for that.
That's opaque and that's already limited opening. And then there was another one to a bedroom that you said.
That bedroom 2, which is on the western side of the property,
Yeah.
that's it's basically called up with clear glass, but it's got limited opening.
Limited opening. And could that one be opaque?
It could, but I don't believe it's
You're
offering.
saying it's not needed. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Sensitive.
I didn't have any other questions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from panel members?
Yes, Annalise, just to clarify, so how wide is the balcony off that upper bedroom?
It is 1,300 millimetres wide, 1.3.
Right. Okay. And there's a is there a cantilever roof over it?
Yes, it's got a roof over it. So the roof cantilever's over the top of it.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, any other questions? Okay, so just back on the construction, like clearly the concern of the adjoining neighbours and people who use the right of way is that previous construction, as I understand it, has resulted in a degree of, I suppose, issues arising with it being single lane and, you know, trucks and cars not being able to pass, etc. So there has been a degree of inconvenience caused during the construction, and also then there's the residual issues to do with the cost of who pays for works to fix up the laneway. It's a private lane, it's not anything that is owned by council, but clearly there is a concern about how this is going to be managed. The construction traffic management plan proposed condition is a way of endeavouring to manage that, but at this stage we don't, you know, we're not privy to how thick the concrete is, what sort of weight can be supported on it, etc., etc. So in relation to approving an application, there is a degree of uncertainty as to whether access to construct your building can reasonably be provided from Trappers Way, given that the experience previously has not been necessarily an acceptable experience, and has resulted, it would appear, in costs being borne by other residents who were not party to that construction. What you're saying also is that it's not feasible, principally in terms of the cost involved to have access from Cabarita Road, and we have no information before us as to what access, if it had to be provided for Cabarita, what impact that would have in terms of removal of trees, etc., you know, whether you'd need cranes on public ways, those sorts of things. So one option that we were thinking about was whether, given there is this degree of uncertainty, whether it's more appropriate to have a deferred commencement condition until the access conditions are resolved, in terms of so transferring that construction traffic management plan to being a deferred commencement condition. So Greg, just in terms of your response to that.
Yeah, sure. Look, the condition is structured at the moment in such a way that construction traffic management plan needs to be submitted to council and approved by their traffic team prior to issue of any construction certificate. So it effectively is already written as a precursor to any construction certificate that council needs to form a certain level of satisfaction. In relation to the previous damage that's occurred to Trappers Way, that ultimately is a risk for my client moving forward, and I think that any additional impact that might arise as a consequence of this particular development is stitched up in terms of the dilapidation reporting and the requirement to clearly identify whether any additional impacts have been created by this development. And my client is prepared to accept that condition. And I think this level of construction traffic management sort of detailing up front is what wasn't incorporated in any of the previous applications, and it's a relatively new condition which council is now applying to these particular types of development. And in relation to access from Cabarita Road, I simply need to just direct you to the site plan, which shows that there's approximately 60 metres of quite steep and landscape bushy terrain that would need to be moved across to lug materials and the like, and I wouldn't think that there is a concrete pump around today that could actually pump concrete up to that sort of elevation. So I think that can be dealt with by way of some of those smaller ready-mix trucks that are available to be able to manage that. So look, we would oppose the deferred commencement condition simply because the condition as currently drafted requires the sign-off by council in relation to the detail of that construction traffic management plan prior to issue of CC.
All right, thank you. So unless there's any other questions from panel members, that will conclude item 4.1. Sorry, Andrew?
Madam Chair, can I just make one? We've just had a quick check just to clarify also what Greg's saying. As well as being 60 metres in distance, it's 30 metres vertical drop from Cabarita Road to the floor level. I mean, we have been very mindful of the extent of the concrete proposed for the project, and it's really an extension on the lower ground floor, which is concrete. The upper floor is timber, it's not concrete. Or the ground floor, sorry, the extension of the ground floor is all lightweight construction. It's the lowest ground floor, which is close to the ground. It just makes sense to use concrete in that instance. The swimming pool, even the decks around the swimming pool, they're proposed to be lightweight construction. So we are very mindful of that. We have had discussions with builders, although we haven't got a builder contract at this point. We were aware of that, and we have prepared a plan which gives us, by removing some of the retaining walls at the front of the existing property, we're going to have a larger pull-off area for those times when we do need to get a small truck vehicle. And we did test that. We actually, now that I'm going back through it, we did test that a small tipper could fit into that space, and it can. And the space available was at bit over 5 metres wide by 12 metres deep. And there's a flat area immediately adjoining that, which materials can be stored, and that would all go into the construction traffic management plan, part of that process.
All right, thank you. So that concludes that item. The next matter is item 4.2, lot 305, 0 Coonawarra Road, Terry Hills. We have an objector, David Harris. So if you're there, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, thank you. So let me get my notes up. Look, thanks very much for allowing me to address the panel today. I wish to make several points as a resident of this locality for over 35 years, and also separately to make some general comments about the processes as Secretary and representative of the Duffy's Forest Residents Association. Firstly, I object to the DA as a local resident on the following grounds. Firstly, the Warringah Development Control Plan requires buildings to have visual bulk and architectural scale that is consistent with structures on nearby and adjoining properties and not to visually dominate the street or surrounding spaces. With a proposed roof height of 9.12 metres and 3 stories in the rear, this building is disproportionate and out of character with surrounding properties above the tree line, and it will dominate over neighbouring properties to the north. Next, every time council approves an increase in height, a precedent is created for future developments. The clearing of 138 trees makes a mockery of and is inconsistent with the objective of council's draft tree canopy plan, which seeks, and I quote, better monitoring of the tree canopy across the local government area, strengthening the local planning frameworks to support the retention, protection, replacement and growth of private trees. Next, if council had followed their own criteria in the environmental zone review, as one of the few remaining undeveloped blocks with original native trees, this site should have been identified for environmental protection and C3 zoning. This C3 zoning would have blocked future planning loopholes by restricting any future applications to clear more trees for stables, as they would have been prohibited in a C3 zone. The DA has been modified to reduce tree removal to 138 after deleting the arena and stables. As the community has seen time and again, the apparent concessions presented in the revised DA could be nullified by simply allowing horse grazing, which will destroy remaining native trees in the Vegetation Management Plan, the VMP area, and remove constraints to complying development under the Rural Housing Code. Next, Council's assessment report proposes a Section 88E covenant be applied to the retained areas within the northern and western setbacks to ensure the ongoing protection and retention of vegetation within the VMP area. This condition is strongly supported. However, the panel should be aware that Council recently varied similar covenants on a bush block in Garara Road, Duffys Forest, with the argument that the restriction wasn't consistent with other surrounding blocks. And finally, the assessment report also proposes to condition that all the land identified as VMP area is planted and managed as Sydney North exposed sandstone woodland. This condition would be very difficult to enforce and should also be managed with a Section 88E covenant. Now I want to speak as a representative of the community and in my capacity of Secretary of DFRA, that's Duffys Forest Residents Association, and I need to make the following comments. Firstly, Council is failing to preserve the non-urban lands of Duffys Forest and Terry Hills. The assessment report concluded that in accordance with Council's community participation plan and following the second notification period in which additional documents were provided, and given the reduction changes that are represented, the community was not required to be further notified. These remarks demonstrate that Council's community participation plan is not only tokenistic, but encourages developers to submit DAs which significantly exceed planning controls, then at the last hour offer concessions while the community is kept in the dark. This property should have been assessed under the environmental zone review and given an appropriate zoning of C3 and not RU4. The community is very disappointed in Council's poor record in responding to the accelerated vegetation and habitat loss occurring across the non-urban lands. In this case, the owner of the property was caught by community members using machinery to remove so-called dead trees with wildlife hollows and transporting the evidence to another property while the DA was still under review. Not surprisingly, this was done on a Sunday afternoon when council rangers were not available. The written council response to community frustration at this event indicates the owner will get away with a warning, which is no deterrent at all to other owners and developers of inappropriate developments. This DA clearly illustrates how, with enough money, developers can manipulate and circumvent planning controls. Sadly, as the property is already on the market, the owner having purchased the neighbouring property, this property speculation will lead to environmental destruction of this land, as is occurring at an accelerating rate in this locality. This proposal is not in the public interest. I urge this panel to consider the environmental costs of removing so much native vegetation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just see if there's any questions.
I just have one question. It's a clarification, David. It relates to, you said that there was a Section 88E covenant put in place in Barara water, in a Barara Way consent. And I just didn't hear what you said about that. What were you saying about that?
There was one,
similar to the one that's proposed.
yeah, similar to this. So it was a bush block on Guara Road, Duffy's Forest. That's at the western end of Duffy's Forest. And the argument put by council was that the restriction wasn't consistent with other surrounding blocks. So there was a precedent for getting rid of this, the covenant. And,
so it
and
wasn't,
that's what happened.
so there was an existing covenant which was then removed by council, is that right?
That's right.
Or that council made a decision not to put a covenant on at all?
No, it was removed by council.
It was removed, okay.
That's my understanding of it, yeah.
I didn't have any other questions, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. And you also mentioned about the, I think it was the planting and sandstone, that should also be a covenant. Can you just explain that a bit more, please?
Yeah, so what will happen is the condition to have Sydney North sandstone woodland won't necessarily be followed. It will be extremely hard for such a condition to be enforced. So it's much better to have a Section 88E covenant put on it.
Okay. Any other questions from panel members?
No, thanks, Annalise. That was my question as well.
All right, thank you. So
Thank you.
then on behalf of the, sorry, was that a question, Andrew? No. On behalf of the applicant, we have Spencer Jones.
Let me just see if Spencer's here one moment. Here we go. He's just joining the meeting now.
Thank you.
Spencer's now in the meeting.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
It's your turn to speak, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry I'm late. No, I just wanted to sort of reiterate. Obviously, we've been negotiating with the council and their consultants over the last few months. Obviously, where we started is quite different from where we've ended up. There's been a lot of sort of compromise, I think, from the client's point of view to try and satisfy the requirements of the various council consultants that we engaged with, and also addressing neighbouring concerns. So, as you probably know, it sort of went from a sort of entire sort of equine facility with 2 stables, arena, 5 or 6 horse paddocks, and we basically took the whole lot out, reinstated most of the native woodland, and I just sort of wanted to get that across. We kind of feel like, I think we resubmitted about 2 or 3 times to kind of get something that we thought was satisfactory to everybody, and I think where we ended up is sort of hit the right balance, and addressed all the concerns of both council and neighbours. And I kind of feel like, yeah, the amount of compromise the client made to sort of get that over the line should be recognised, and that was really all I wanted to say.
And you weren't here for when the objector was speaking, were you?
No, I wasn't. I had a site meeting, unfortunately, this morning, and I couldn't get away in time, so I only just got back home.
Okay. So I won't ask you to address any of the matters raised by the objector. Any questions from panel members?
No, thank you.
I mean,
Could I
I can imagine what some of the comments may have been, but I kind of I would just reiterate that what the amount of compromise we've made from where we started would I think should be kind of recognised and hopefully addressed most of those concerns anyway.
Madam Chair, this is probably out of order, but as the objector, could I make a comment, seeing he didn't hear what I've had to say before?
No.
Well, I just
and
simply say the
basically-
community
sorry.
is not satisfied at all.
Yeah, but
I mean,
basically,
you're destroying another undeveloped.
sorry, Mr. Harris, you have had
Yeah,
your
sorry.
turn. This is
Okay.
not a forum where we have toing and froing. You've been given the opportunity to speak. The representative, the applicant, is now being given an opportunity to speak, and we are asking questions of him. But you've had your turn. So
Okay, thank you.
I'll just check if there's any other questions from panel members.
No, no, Chair.
No. All right. So that concludes that item. Thank you for attending. The next item is item 4.3, 108 Anzac Avenue, Coleroy. We have an objector, Brad Mills.
Panel Chair, Mr. Mills has requested to be called in, so I will just call him through now.
All right, thank you.
Person you are calling is not available.
Oh,
All right, if you can
And
just leave a message, Heidi, and we'll go on to the applicant.
try and leave a message. I can also just go and send him an email right now as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, well, we'll hear from Mr. Gelder if you're there.
Mr. Gelder is not in the meeting either. I have sent an email off, so I can call him through. I do have his number. Let me try that.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Mr. Gelder.
Please leave a detailed message after the tone. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hello, Mr. Gelder. This is the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel, just calling you in to address for the 20th of September meeting. Thank you. Stand by, I will email them both again.
Okay, well, the choice we have is either that they're not available and we conclude the meeting, or we adjourn for 5 minutes and see if they turn up. So, panel members, any preference? I can't hear anyone.
I'm happy with an adjournment if you think it's reasonable.
Yep. All right. Unless anyone disagrees with that course of action, we'll just adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes. So if we come back at 5 minutes past 1, so don't log off, just, you know, turn off your sound, and we'll be back at 5 minutes past 1.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Aye.
Hello, panel. I have got in contact with Mr. Mills. He's available for me to call right now, and I have called the Gelder Architecture Group to inform them as well. So if I could just start by calling Mr. Brad Mills into the meeting.
Sarah's muted. Thank you very much, Heidi.
Hello, Mr. Mills. You're with the local planning panel.
Mr. Mills, are you there? Because we can't hear you.
Yeah, hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we can hear you now. So if you wanted to make your presentation, no longer than 3 minutes.
Okay, there's a few items here I'd like to address. Firstly, it's overlooking from a number of windows. On the ground floor level, the proposed ground floor office gymnasium. Those windows are on the same level as our lounge. And proposed 2 windows facing directly into our lounge room, for starters. So I would suggest if this is being approved that they be conditioned to be highlight windows only. And these rooms are within 3 metres of the boundary, I might add. First floor, bedroom 3, the window to the northwest shown on the plans has a privacy screen that's not noted on the northwest elevation. The highlight window would be acceptable, but the front bedroom window would be directly overlooking our lounge room again and capable of looking in there. I'll just go back to that ground floor dining living area. There's a balcony that's proposed off there. That's been reduced, but the screen doesn't have a height on it, and a fixed screen is proposed, fixed louver screen. There's no details of the screening. Although you could scale off it, you can't scale off a computer drawing. But if that's a screen and that balcony is approved, or the development is approved, that be made a solid wall, the same as being proposed for the other barbecue side terrace. Or the wall has a minimum, or the screening has a minimum height of 2 metres above the finished floor level. The windows that are shown on the drawing don't denote whether they're fixed panels or not. I noticed the planner's report mentions translucent glass to be placed in these windows, but I would suspect that they should be denoted. I can't find a window schedule anywhere. The windows to the northwest and to the east facing the street on that living area, which has a fireplace, should be fixed panels only if it's to be approved. Going back to where the plan is written about the objections that were raised, condition item 4, the tree removal that is noted. Tree 5 was initially to be retained. This tree predominantly hangs over our property. If the proposal was approved, there'd be excavation within 1.5 metres of the base of this tree. It's a large old tree, and even in the landscapers report, Council's landscapers report, it notes it's of high retention value. The building as proposed would be well within the drip line. It would take a lot of water away from what is an existing old tree with a large canopy, and it would place, we already get a lot of branches coming in because it's an old tree. It struggles on the sandstone embankment. and it's only going to make the tree even more unstable if that was to be excavated with an area of 5. And I note in the conditions about root excavation here from the landscaper or the landscape comments. Regarding the landscape plan itself, and I've noted this in my objections, the landscape plan shows on the northwest boundary between our property 110 and 108 that there is to be a number of trees planted along there. At the actual area that we're concerned about, well, the majority of that boundary is, as noted on the survey plan, a rock outcrop, and that's predominantly between RLs approximately 49.5 and 54. Nothing grows there. It is solid sandstone. The only reason that there's any planting on our side of the boundary to try and provide us with some privacy from existing walkways and the existing balcony that's on the house is that over 60 years, the previous owner to us has created terracing. We struggle to provide life to trees there. The other owner of this property, my partner, she's a qualified horticulturalist, so it's not punters having a crack at growing something on here. She knows what she's doing. We struggle to maintain any privacy in trees through there. The other thing is that they've shown a path on that northwest boundary and landscape planting, all within 1.5 meters in spots. And it simply would be illogical to try and think that that could happen. As far as if it's approved excavation of the site, that sandstone shelf runs straight across underneath our property and continues over the midsection of all the properties on either side. If there was any excavation to be done on there, it would be desirable to have it conditioned as rock sawing only without jackhammering, even though there's dilapidation reports called for. The use of the lower ground floor with the bedrooms or a 2-bedroom adjoining the office and gymnasium, that all kitchenette mentions that's been mentioned on there should be removed from the application.
So, where is that on the? This is on the gym and
on the
office.
planner's report. He's noted that there's a kitchenette, 2 bedrooms and kitchenette requested, and it's not to be used as future as a separate dwelling. That condition that no kitchenette be placed in that area.
Yep.
But primarily, we're concerned about overlooking from that balcony off the living room and the condition of the trees along that tree number 5 especially, which would... They've also called, the landscaping comment from council has called for 2 additional trees to be placed on the site prior to issuing the construction or the occupation certificate. They've said within 10 metres of the street. If you put 2 large trees in there, the only place they can put it is towards our boundary. So 2 large angophoras are then going to severely compromise our views out in that direction towards Longreef. And the soil there just is absolute minimum. It's on rock. So I don't know who came out and had a look at it, but it is absolutely solid rock. There's rock outcrops protrude through all over the place, particularly on the street boundary. And as noted on the survey plan, it literally says rock outcrop. So how anyone expects to plant anything through there beggars belief.
All right, so just clarifying the issues that you raised about privacy, just so I can understand.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the plans now. So you're saying off the living area,
Yep.
that level,
Yep.
the deck there, the proposed privacy screen. What was your concern about that? Sorry.
Well, on the plan, it has proposed privacy screen. Okay. The planting to the front won't do anything for us. That's out the front, and planting dies in a planter box. Okay. So that's not going to do anything for us. If they put a privacy, it gets approved, that privacy or that deck has a fixed solid wall on it to a minimum of 1900 2 metres. Because that is absolutely opposite our living room window. The only privacy we have there now from a walkway that exists up there, and they propose a walkway along that surface in addition to the balcony, is bamboos that we have planted in planter boxes, which in this heat we'll struggle to keep surviving.
Okay, so you don't think that the privacy screen that's proposed, which is angled,
No.
is sufficient?
No, not at all. Not from noise, not from visibility either. And I'm a builder, and I know how these things are put up. So unless that's a solid wall, which can't be removed at any stage, and I know it'll be conditioned as it's got to stay there, but no one's going to come around afterwards. The certifier's not going to come around and say, yes, that's all good, great, you've got a privacy screen. There's no details of the width, size, apertures of the screen, and then later on it gets removed.
And then the windows on that side off the lounge area?
The windows off either side of the fireplace. It doesn't
that's on the level
specify,
below?
No, that's on the same level as that deck.
Oh, I see. It's fireplace. Yeah. So fireplace.
What are
you saying
There's
about
two
those?
windows on the north facing the northwest boundary.
Yep.
Okay, that they be fixed glazing and translucent glass.
And they look into your back garden, is that what you're saying?
That's, where you can see that back corner and there's the green contour line going across. That's our outdoor space. And we've currently, there's an existing deck on the dwelling. We've tried to put planting in to give us some privacy as it is.
Okay.
So, but that whole planting situation that's shown on the landscape architect's drawing is just a furphy. Absolute
I'll
furphy.
just see if there's any questions from the panel members.
No, nothing from me.
Nothing for you, Glenys?
What did you want to happen in relation to the landscape plan and the rock outcrop, the path on the northwestern boundary?
If you go, just let me change to a drawing here if I can. Okay, the landscape plan shows a line of I think they're blueberry ash. Just let me get to the schedule if I can. What have they got there? Yeah, they've got blueberry ash, 25 litre pots, 2 to 3 metres. Minimum spread 2 to 3 metres. I mean, the building is closer than that. And you're right on a rocky outcrop. You're never going to get anything to grow in there. We can't grow anything in there. If a planner or a landscape architect had cared to knock on our door, they would have seen the situation. The situation on their side of the boundary is visible from the street. I mean, there's even photos in the planning report. You can see it as plain as the nose on your face. Okay,
so essentially your concern is you're saying that because of the sandstone and the soil conditions, the blueberry ash isn't suitable for along that.
Nothing will grow in that vicinity.
Yeah, okay. Other questions from panel members?
No, thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you very much.
The bulk and scale of the building we objected to initially. reducing it in slight parts has not changed our objections to the whole size of the dwelling. You know, there's still non-compliances. This is just reduction by stealth is ridiculous.
All right, look,
and
I'll just interrupt you, Mr. Mills, because you have put forward your point of view, so you're essentially repeating yourself now. So I'll just see if the architect is there now to speak.
I would need to try and call him back into the meeting again.
Okay, can you see if he's around? So he didn't listen to the objections. Okay.
No. Hello, Mr. Gelder.
Please leave a detailed message after the tone. When you have finished.
Okay, well, we've given him a number of opportunities to join the meeting. We did have questions of him, but he's unavailable. They're the items on the public agenda. So that this public meeting will now be closed. The panel will now deliberate on those items, and our decisions and our reasons for decisions will be placed on Council's website within 2 working days. So thank you all very much for attending, and the public meeting is closed at 1:22 p.m.
Thank you.